TruthSeekah and/or its affiliates are not responsible for any strange phenomena that may occur during or after listening to this podcast, which may include the following: heightened senses of awareness, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, alien contact, time loss, out-of-body experiences, ringing in the ears, ESP, lucid dreaming, increased synchronicities, astral projection, telepathy, stronger intuition, levitation, miraculous healings, and/or remote viewing. Please be advised to listen at your own discretion.
Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? To a place to walk on troubled seas, faith to stand when I don't believe. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come?
You are now locked into the TruthSeekah Podcast.
Gargoyles! Psychics! Everything's ungodly! Dark savage!
Streaming live at TruthSeekah.com.
She's not a Christian!
Give it up, y'all.
Your portal to the paranormal, esoteric, and all things spiritual.
She's tampering in dark-sided stuff!
And now, your host, TruthSeekah.
Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm your host, TruthSeekah. This is the TruthSeekah Podcast. Excited and delighted to be with you guys, as always. Man, we're gonna be getting into it. We're gonna be talking about UFOs and aliens and pixies and fairies and the paranormal, things that go bump in the night, and your encounters with those beings as well. So we got an awesome guest lined up for you guys today. It's gonna be a good show. Get ready. Ask your comments in the chat. If you're a patron, you can join the show via Patreon and join in on the Zoom and ask our guest questions there, or ask me a question. Maybe you got a question for me. I'll answer your questions. You have the ability to do so. With that being said, Patreon. What is Patreon? Patreon is the best way to support my work and my music, my podcast, my book, everything that I got going on. We have a Thursday night School of the Mystics. It's a community aspect to what we're building here. You get access to that by supporting. You get access to all of my guided meditations, all of my music, Sunday morning breath work with me. If you guys like to breathe, how's your breathing been? You want to breathe with me? I lead some of that. We pray, we meditate, we talk. We get things off of our chest, and it's really fun. It's a community. That's what you do in a community. If you're in a community that doesn't let you do that stuff, that's not a community. That's a cult. You need to get out of it really quick. With that being said, go to patreon.com/TruthSeekah if you'd like to support and check out all the cool stuff that I'm bringing to the table. It's a lot. I'm a workaholic for sure. I want to thank some of the latest patrons within the last week or so. Shout out to Colin Rainey, thank you for coming on, Colin. Jennifer Laverty, Carolyn Powell, Frankie Moulton, and Tilinge Figueroa. Thank you guys for believing in the work. Make sure you guys check it out. The new album is about to drop, like probably when I get off of this podcast. Everybody who has pre-ordered White Magic is going to have it in their inbox, and the official date isn't until October the 6th. But those of you who have pre-ordered the autographed copy with the sticker pack and all that cool stuff, you'll get it in your inbox probably tonight or in the morning. Depends on how late we go tonight. But yeah, we got a bunch of stuff coming up. Go to TruthSeekah.com to see everything that I have. The pre-order is there. The retreats that we got coming up are there as well. Myself and Illuminati Congo are going to be doing the Reset, Refresh, and Renew retreat in November. And there's six slots available, 6 slots left. So if you want to be one of those lucky people to walk through the woods, and I'll hold your hand walking through the woods and talking about the paranormal, breathing together, doing breath work, Kundalini yoga, cacao ceremony, shamanic snuff, rape. We'll be doing that, and just having a beautiful time connecting with like-minded people in the flesh. and in the spirit. It's what we do. So if you're interested in that, check it out. Also, we got people signing up already for our Path of the Healer program, the 8-week program that I launched a year ago. And this is going to be the third time that I run it through. It's an 8-week program with myself that teaches you how to be an intuitive healer, a counselor, online coach, use your giftings and your skills to be able to make a living doing what you love, counseling people, coaching people, and how to make a website, how to blog, how to do music, whatever it is the gift that you want to bring to the table, that I would say is the thing that you love. And for most of you guys listening, it's something to do with healing. You're an empath. You want people's journeys to be a little bit lighter. You want to inspire them with your music and your creativity. All of that is healing. That's the healing arts. And so I'm doing that 8-week training, that 8-week program. And so if you want to get the info on that, that is at TruthSeekah.com as well. That kicks off, I believe, September the 26th, and runs for 8 consecutive Sunday nights for 8 weeks. And it's going to be good. So we've had really good success with people who have joined that in the past. So if that's something that resonates with you deep down, you know already, and you'll go check it out, and you'll be on there with me. If not, we'll catch you on the next one. Today's guest is my friend Ryan Musgrave-Evans. Ryan, welcome to the TruthSeekah Podcast, my friend. How are you?
Hey, dude. Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you here, man.
Pleasure to be here.
Your publicist, your publisher. He's kind of wearing both hats. Good friends of mine. He sends me a lot of the authors and people that he works with, and Philip Mantle and from Flying Disc Press. And he sent me your release and your book, and I read it, and I was like, "Yep, we should have a talk." And then I went to your YouTube channel, and I got to hear you kind of just free flowing and sharing these thoughts and subjects from your book on your YouTube channel. And I was like, oh yeah, we're going to have a good time. Welcome to the podcast, man.
Yeah. Cheers, man. Thanks. Cool. So you read the book. Nice one. Excellent.
Yeah. Well, I didn't read the whole thing. I did a synopsis.
Well, there'll be questions.
Yeah. Trust me. I already have the questions down. I've already I know where I want to go with it, but then we'll let Spirit in the chat take us other places too. So
sounds good.
I'm going to pick your brain and we're going to connect. But for people who don't know who you are, this is the first time hearing about you, hearing about your work, your book, and everything you bring to the table. Go ahead and just kind of give a quick overview, who you are, what you do. We'll start there, man.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks, man. Okay, guys, g'day. I'm Ryan, 41-year-old Australian. I've been a nurseryman, an elementary school teacher. I've been an experiencer of a race of future lineage humans, or actually we could talk a little bit more about that at a later time and talk about how it depends on what you mean by time travel. All my life, I've had interesting experiences, but early on in my childhood and teenage years and even into my 20s, I was presuming that these beings were some kind of earth spirits, fairies, elves. Became impassioned about learning about Celtic spirituality and mythology, Eastern mysticism as well. I really got into there at one stage. Particularly, though, the Celtic fairy faith. And I really got impassioned about learning the Gaelic language and became a real linguistic nerd because of that. And I've been learning that for like about 20 years now. But it was in the past, it was around about 2013 or 2014 that my experiences started really hitting a new level where the interactions were less sort of dreamlike and more defined and vivid. And started to take more of a slant to make them sort of more interpretable as maybe being ET related. So that's when I sort of had this, it sort of dawned on me that my earlier experiences could maybe have been described as ET related as well. And then I started to question the relationship between older mythologies, particularly Celtic mythologies, but world mythologies in general, Middle Eastern stuff with the jinn and Eastern characters as well from their folklores and things like that. They have a lot of similarities. Really got into Jacques Vallée, Mactones, adopted the word crypto-terrestrials from Mac Tonnies, the late great Mac Tonnies, who wrote his book, The Crypto-Terrestrials, Meditation on Indigenous Humanoids and the Aliens Among Us. And regrettably, he passed away in 2009 as a very young man, only in his 30s, but his book was published posthumously in 2010. It's a cool little book. But I took his word, crypto-terrestrials, because he talked about these kind of ideas related to Jacques Vallée's ideas about maybe there being this continuation between the fairies of old and ET phenomena and close encounters of post 1947, say. But he also mixed it with ideas about the beings perhaps being indigenous to this planet rather than extraterrestrial or extra solar. Even a lot of the time people presume alien, the beings behind close encounters and stuff, people normally presume they're even from beyond our solar system, let alone just from beyond the Earth. He had different reasons for thinking that, but I've started investigating these beings that I've been involved with all of my life, looking for them, building a crypto-terrestrial profile through my book. And that's what the book's really about. It's mostly about an investigation into their presence through different cases. But I do go into my own experiences towards the end of the book. So yeah, basically that's the spiel, dude.
Man, even in that, there's just so many questions I have. I always ask my guests, man, like what was the first incident, the first experience that you can remember? We'll say that, like, just tracing it back. Was it stuff that was going on when you was a child? Was it through when you started, looking into Eastern mysticism? Did weird things start happening in your life? When did all this start for you to pique your interest in this stuff?
Well, the earliest, well, actually, there are a couple of memories. I'm not quite sure what age I would have been. I would have been quite young, 4 or 5 or so, where I would wake up in the middle of the night and I'd feel that there was a presence. I'd wander around and not be able to wake up my siblings and my parents. And then wander outside where there were glowing, what I thought were harlequins leaping up into the air and floating back down, luminous beings, and would go off with them and then wake up again in bed. Or another time I was grabbed by something and was put into a sack, like it was a sack or something, when I went outside and looked up at a boat that my dad had built that sits in my parents' front yard still. He'd built this large boat that saw the sea at one stage, but mostly lived in my parents' place. And different, my brother and I at one stage had used that boat as a bedroom and things at one stage, where it was sort of like a separate room. It was a 50-foot boat. I went out when I was a kid and looked up in the middle of the night, not being able to wake my family, and this big dark shape was standing on the boat and jumped down onto me and wrapped me up in something and ran away. And I could feel myself being taken away. And then as I was struggling, whatever it was slowed down, opened the sack and patted me and closed the sack again and started running off again. And I then had missing time, woke up hysterical, sort of hanging off my bed. So there's those kinds of experiences. I had a few of them, but I don't know what age it would have been. I would have probably been about 4 or 5 or maybe 6. But one experience I had in broad daylight with my family, I know how old I was. I was 1 month shy of turning 5. And it was Christmas time. And my family and I had gone down to the local golf course, where it was traditional for us to, there was a small pine tree wood, like Pinus radiata, North American pine trees were growing on this golf course. And we'd go in there every Christmas and take just a limb off a large tree and drag that home and use that as the Christmas tree. So one year we were down there, my mum was standing next to me with my little brother on her hip, and my older siblings that were a fair bit older than me, like 10 years older than me, jumped the fence and went off into the trees. And I couldn't see them anymore. And I was standing there on the edge of the wood with my mum. And there, behind a big pine tree, this dark face came out one side with 4 long, really long, thin fingers, like out here, wrapped them around the pine tree, looked at me. It had like a triangular shaped face. And I always thought it sort of looked like a mask. And it had these marks on its face that at the time I sort of thought maybe were like war paint or something, but it had its head had sort of like some ridge sort of looking lumps on top, big dark eyes. Went behind the tree to the other side, looked at me, went back behind the tree again. And the interesting thing as well was that its hands and its arms and parts of its face, I think, looked like they were made out of the tree. Like it was one with the tree. And I said to my mum, what is that? And she was like, what are you talking about? I can't see anything. And she said, oh, that's, and she was talking about my sisters and brothers and stuff. I'm like, no, just here behind this tree right here. Like it's only like 20 foot away. She couldn't see anything. It was still behind the tree, moving back and forth. And my brothers and sisters came back again and walked straight past it and couldn't see it. Now after that incident, I started believing in fairies. I presumed it was like some kind of earth spirit. It was a spirit of pine tree or something like that. And that really fueled my interest in paganism, like a Wicca and Druidry, Celtic paganism and things. Over the years, over my teenage years, became quite obsessed about that and studying fairy myth. But so they're some early experiences for you.
Wow. Yeah, I like to trace it back, man. Having my own very similar experiences to what you're talking about. Just remember wandering through the house and nobody being at home. Like all the family, brothers, sisters, everybody's gone. Mom, dad, at like, the wee hours of the morning, nobody's in the house. And I'm, 4 years old or whatever, and having a bunch of weird stuff, like you're saying, happening when you're a kid. And the weird thing is we just have pieces of it. We just remember little bitty pieces of it back then. And so for you, like, you kind of start tying a lot of this stuff together, like a lot of the different myth and UFOs and ufology that's very popular now. And do you think that these could be the same type of beings, the same type of entities, or is there just like a whole plethora of beings that exist on many different realms of frequencies and in nature and in the sky and in volcanoes or in the trees? Is it a bunch of different things going on? What do you think's happening?
Well, in regards to this, I'm pretty boring. Where I'm not sure. Like I don't know about that. It very well may be. It's not for me to say that these things don't exist, that there aren't beings that are interdimensional we can't see, that are moving around that we don't know about, that aren't related to the kinds of beings I'm talking about. But the ones that I know about are what Charles Hall, in his Millennial Hospitality series of books, called tall whites, and what prior to that people...
I'd be a short white.
Yeah, same here. Well, a lot of them are as well. They take a long time to grow. So, the prior to that, they were normally called Nordics. Like people, and nowadays people often use the term Nordic to mean something different to tall whites. Like they've divided what the terms meant. But earlier on, Nordics were what tall whites were called, and then post Charles Hall's Millennial Hospitality books, they started calling them tall whites. But they're the ones I know about. But they're flesh and blood. It's nuts and bolts. So their technologies are so advanced that, in a way, it blurs the line between spirituality and sort of more metaphysical understandings about nature, reality, and sort of more tangible nuts and bolts reality. I know that a lot of the UFO and close encounter phenomena that's occurring at the moment is them. In fact, in my opinion, it's most of it. And then maybe some of it's us back engineering our own stuff as well a little bit. And then maybe other stuff is true, genuine aliens that don't have any genetic affiliation with anything on Earth, because these guys are future versions of ourselves that have left for a prolonged period and come back again to heal their unraveling genomes, their impoverished genetic codes. So I'm pretty boring in that sense. So
Okay, well, I just trying. Well, I know that you do talk. You know, you started studying fairies and some of that myth and
Yeah.
stuff. So I didn't know if you thought that it was all the same thing. And I just wanted just to be clear on that.
Uh,
So I guess the two next questions I have, and you can, whichever you prefer to answer first. Like, how did you know that you were in contact? Right, you have these little vague memories when you're younger, but what made it real for you that you were actually in contact with these type of beings? And two, who are they? So whichever one you want to go first, we'll get to both of those
okay.
questions.
I'll do the first one you asked first. Uh, well, in about 2013 or 2014, when I was like, yeah, this is real, this is happening, and there's like physical effects left in material reality and all this kind of stuff. Um, was an event that I had happen to me where I was outside on our porch. There'd been another event a couple of nights before where I'd come home in the middle of the night. It was a shorter event where I'd walked back. I'd opened our door in the middle of the night, put the keys back on the peg, levitated back to bed, and then thought, hold on a sec, something just took me then or something. That was weird, right? But a couple of nights later, I said, I want to remember more of it. If you messed with my memory, I want to remember more of whatever that happened then.
Mm.
So a couple of nights later, I was out on our veranda, a porch, lining up coins and like drinking glasses, just kneeling down, lining them up, which is a sort of like an obsessive compulsive mind state that seems to take over with me when they're manipulating my mind in some ways, sometimes using mesmerization. Drop down to my knees and start like doing tasks and things like that. So that was happening. I stood up, I went to walk back inside, and I levitated and either went around the outside of the roof of the veranda or straight through it. I'm not quite sure, because intangibility comes into play as well, where they can make you intangible to pass through objects and stuff. Went up, and then all of a sudden I was in a bed with a woman, huge blue eyes, short blonde hair, sitting next to me, where I had one leg sort of to the side so that there was room on the bed, and she had sat in that space just below my right knee. Really tall guy, dressed as a medic with huge long fingers, feeling around at my teeth. So this was like and I was fully aware, and I could move. Well, I felt like I could move if I wanted to, but I had this overriding thought all the time: you can move if you want, but you don't want to, right? And that's a kind of, I feel that a lot when I'm having these kinds of interactions with them, where I don't want to bother them. I want them to do what they want to do, but I'm not quite sure how much of those thoughts are my own and how much are implanted, where they're removing me as a threat by telling me what to think. The guy went behind me, they lifted my head, and the most friggin' painful procedure, did an incredibly painful procedure, like in the back of my skull, just where the vertebrae goes in. Like, worse than the worst filling I've ever had without any anesthetic, and worse than the tattoo I've got that, goes under my arm. People say they're supposed to be bad. No, this was just like intense, but no kind of adrenaline response, completely calm while it was happening, feeling like that was being projected from the woman, actually, that kind of sense. And then they were gone, and I was like, they're still here. I could still feel there was a presence. And at no stage did I feel like I'd fallen asleep. Like they were there, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're just gone. I got up, I went to the bathroom, I came back again. Then I had this sort of like a weird lucid dream. I have a lot of lucid dreams, but I had this sort of dream when I was outside, and the sky was sort of these weird colors of mauves and purples and reds and stuff. And I screamed out into the sky, which is something that I do when I'm lucid dreaming. It's just sort of like a habit of mine where I'm thinking maybe I'm not the only sentient being in this dreamscape, so I'll see if anything responds. But when I did that, all of a sudden I felt myself being pushed back into bed, and a voice right in the middle of my head say, "You are okay." And I said, "Oh yeah, thanks, I'm okay. This is just something I do." I wasn't screaming because I was upset. It's just something I do. And then all of a sudden, heaps of scenery, like forests and rivers, mountains, started flicking across my vision, so that my eyes actually weren't working anymore. Like I couldn't see the room anymore. I just had all these like visions flicking across, and then the last one in particular I remember quite well, where there was some kind of building and a large tree, and I don't know whether that was them just trying to calm me, or whether they were showing me images of places that they know well and appreciate, or what. And then all of a sudden, it finished. And at one point there, actually, I left out, they did a scan as well, up and down me. And another thing that was happening all over the top of that was this weird sound that sounded to me, the closest thing was like someone scraping a spade across the surface, like a concrete surface, over and over again. And I have no idea what that was. The next morning, out where I'd gone up over the roof, our TV antenna was all twisted around. And I was like, far out. This stuff's, that was real. That was intense. So that was the first like of those sort of major visitation encounters I've had. But I've had a lot of since that are like medical procedures like that. Sometimes them asking permission to open me up as well, where they say, for this one, we need to open you up. We need permission for this. And once I asked them, what's it for? And they said nothing. And then I said, okay, well, if it's for the best, go for it. And they said, confirmed. And then I had no memory, so I don't know what they did then. But the medical procedure stuff, but also them visiting, which usually takes place with a lot of mesmerization and making me think it's someone else at the time, like what was called in the old days with the old fairy faith, a glamoury. Maybe nowadays people might think them as being doppelgangers, where you're hanging out with a person and you're talking to them, and then it turns out it wasn't that person at all because they're somewhere else. I've had a fair few of those. And then I've also had really intense experiences where they've not given me much mesmerization at all, where they're just there and I can see them like they're real. And then they levitate me as well to move me away and move me places and things like that. And he's just sort of like a puppet moving me around the house if I'm in the way and stuff like that. But anyway.
Wow. We got a question here from Flying Penguins in the chat, and he says, what does he think that they are doing to him? So what do you think that they're doing when they're doing these surgeries?
The one that they did in the back of my head, I said, what was that? And they said, transmitter. Another time, they lifted up my leg and drilled into the bottom of my foot, and then went around and drilled into the top of my head, and then rolled me over. And I was actually sort of like trying to knock the hand away on one of them, and they just sort of kept insistently pushing my arm away and started drilling into, I think, a rib. And then I said, what's that for? And they said, for language and running. And I was like, so I do a fair bit of like trail running and stuff, and I'm also interested in linguistics. So I was sort of like, are they taking elements from me that they think are desirable for themselves, or are they adding something to me? I'm not, but I tried to ask that again. And she said to me, it is a gift. Stop going on about it. So I don't know whether that means still it was a gift. They were giving me a gift, or they're saying that I have some kind of gift that they want.
Yeah. Wow.
So that was ambiguous again, the response. But with the opening up, one time I was awake for when they were actually opening me up with no pain, and they were like really getting in here. I don't know what that's for. Another time I had weird experience where they'd taken over my eyes so that it still looked like I was lying in bed and seeing the ceiling with a kind of a bit of a blue light. But I felt myself being turned over and my whole head turning, and my face being pushed into a bed. I don't even know if I still was at home. I probably wasn't at that stage. But while all this was happening, the same image was still on my eyes. And then they were doing something into my back. But I've probably got a lot of like chips and things in me. I think a lot of it's also has to do with their telepathic communication, which they.
That's what I was going to ask. That's what I've heard. I just interviewed somebody recently. I believe it was Elena Denon, who talked about having some type of implant that she starts hearing their voices, like almost like a radio receiver, not like the impressions, because there's this realm of like getting impressions. We call it telepathic communication, but it's like a divine knowing. Like it doesn't speak in words; it speaks in pictures, symbols, and just an impression on you that, hey, go over here. Hey, look here. Hey, this,
Yeah.
But she talked about having some type of implant where she would hear them like communicating with the radio. It's so you didn't notice anything like that. It's activated or anything after that kind of experience.
Well, they wear in their helmets. It's kind of a telepath tech that they can use on people that are in the general vicinity. But I suspect they've done something to me like that, where they can do that to me without having to be very close to me as well. The way, so abstract kind of thoughts, more like, guidance and things like that, but also visual images sometimes, but linguistic. But linguistic kind of, not hearing any, like a silent voice, but it's like it's three-dimensional. It's like, and sometimes it comes with a thump. And I think that depends on how physically close they are when they're doing it. And if they're really close when they do it, my ears even pop. And so I don't know what the physics of that is, but it's like if they say a sentence at random, like I am in a room talking. For them to with this technology, if they were to express that to me, it would be almost like the sounds were three-dimensional, like an object, and it would not take anywhere near as long to express as it would for me to utter it. Like it's a packet, but it's still linguistic. It's still linguistic, and it's still in English or Gaelic. If sometimes they talk to me in Gaelic, but so, and that linguistic stuff, it's really, really difficult to describe, because it is like a voice, but it's a silent voice, but it's also obvious sometimes if it's a female or a male voice. Don't tell me how.
Yeah.
Or sometimes it is neutral. But
wow. Man, so many more questions. We're going to keep diving into this. We got to jump to a quick break, but on the other side, got to ask that second question again. Who are they? Who are these beings that are contacting you? And I skipped ahead a little bit. I know you say they're contacting and working with others as well. So we're going to talk about that on the other side of the break. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after this.
Elementals are different. Elementals are really strange. I've seen elementals. I've had one-on-one experience with elementals. I don't know exactly what they are. All I know is what to call them. But I've had incidents where I have been in the company of elementals. They're spirit creatures, like fairies, and in the Irish are very big on talking about the different fairies and the different magical little creatures. Leprechauns, I have seen gnomes and leprechauns. And fairies, these are what we call the elementals. They are legitimately life forms, but they don't live in the world you do. They live in a different kind of world, an elemental world, but we call them the elementals. It's quite a subject. Life outside of being a human. What is life like in the spirit world? And that's what you're talking about in your book.
I explore these concepts and more in my new book, Spirit Realm: Angels, Demons, Spirits, and the Sovereignty of God. Forward by Jordan Maxwell. Available now at TruthSeekah.com.
Hi folks, I'm Santos Bonacci, and I am now tuned in to The Awakening. Music is one of the most powerful expressions of truth that we have. It is a very powerful consciousness expander and a great medium for transmitting truth. Check out the work of TruthSeekah at TruthSeekah.com for some great and powerful consciousness expanding music.
Self-medicated, I was contemplating psilocybin. I know they hate it, but Mother Nature prescribed it. Look within while meditating in silence. Step into the inner core, enter through the iris.
Aloha. Aloha to you. That's what's good. Thank you. TruthSeekah says, what's up? What's up? TruthSeekah and myself, we had a deep ass conversation. It was a long ass time ago. I smoked one. I went off. I went crazy.
The TruthSeekah Podcast, it's the best podcast. I mean, it really is. I've heard a few and his is the best. They debunk the prophecies saying, I was your president. I'm not. I'm really not. But keep listening and you will learn something cool. I'm sure of it. Like, really sure. $20 to the mall.
You're listening to the TruthSeekah Podcast. Now, back to the show.
This is it. Don't get scared now.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back with Ryan Musgrave-Evans. Ryan, you're talking about these encounters and these accounts of as far back as you can remember, these beings coming in your bedroom. You've seen them in the woods, them taking you places, putting implants in your body, having all of these crazy encounters in this, and having recollection and memories of it. And you wanting to know, you asking, let me remember. At this point, you wrote a book, you put your stories out there to the public. Who are these beings that have been contacting you and working with a lot of other people that you found out?
They call themselves the Mudjana. They've said that to me a few times. Like I said before, they're the tall whites of Charles Hall. What they really are is future versions of ourselves. But then it gets a little bit complicated because the way they describe it is they are not from, like, time travel. They're not traveling up and down their own time stream and timeline and going back to their past selves. They have located another timeline that, for all intents and purposes, is identical to the way theirs was 52,000 years earlier. And they've jumped across to that or hijacked it. And they've done that because primarily they need access to our ancient, archaic, healthy DNA before we started to go downhill too much. Their DNA is unraveling. It's they have issues where they can't heal their bodies properly. They can live to advanced stages of up to 700 or 800 years, but they have to be extremely lucky to do that because they are susceptible to diseases. And if they break a bone, they can die. They just don't heal the same way that we do anymore. And they've been trying to interbreed with us and hybridize, I suppose you could say, but I'm not quite sure whether that's an appropriate word because they are genetically really close to us. So hybridization might be the wrong word, but racial interbreeding, maybe you could say. So it depends on what you mean. Are they interdimensional beings? Yes, they are, in a sense, because they're from another timeline. It's a different universe. They're not from our future, and we're not really their past. But they're here now, and they're here now permanently. They have been here for thousands of years, influencing us in lots of different ways. But they have never been able to find a permanent cure to their maladies or pathologies. They require every generation or so of themselves re-interaction with our genomes. So then you get cases like the case of Antonio Villas Boas in Brazil in 1958, where he was working at night on a farm on a tractor to escape the heat of the day, and a red light came, landed on the ground. There was a vehicle. Beings jumped out of it in dark suits and dragged him on board. He had a sexual encounter with a woman with fair hair, blue eyes. These were quite short individuals, but this race, they take a long time to grow as well. So, like his partner, this woman that he copulated with was 4'6" or something like that. She would still be about 50 years old, or something like that. they take about 100 years to even get to about 6 foot. Then they grow at intervals and keep on going. But so they can interbreed with us in the old-fashioned kind of way. Peter Curry as well, in Sydney, Australia, in 1992, had a sexual encounter with a woman. She was a much larger, older, tall white. He says he's 6 foot tall. He said that she was at least a head higher than him again, which means she'd be quite advanced in age. She could be as much as 500 years old. And that's interesting as well, because that suggests that the span of fertility for a mudge and a woman can be as much as 400 or 500 years. But basically, you've got video for everyone, have you, man?
Yes,
or is this going to be audio for?
We're gonna have the majority of people are going to be on the audio app. So if you show them, you can explain it, or I can try to explain it too. So
it's okay. It's just I've done a couple of drawings. They are very similar looking to us. Much larger eyes, blue eyes. They wear black lenses over their eyes when they're in certain situations, like the medics. They'll be wearing black. They'll look like they have black eyes, but it's the lenses. Pointed chins. They basically look a lot like the pop culture idea of an elf, but without much in the way of ears. Rather than having big pointed ears.
You know what first came to mind? The hobgoblin without the ears.
Oh, okay, yeah.
From DC, is it? The comics, like Spider-Man.
Right. Yeah. With the pointed, I think, yeah. Is that the one with the pointed chin?
Yeah. Yep. Green,
yeah.
Hobgoblin or Green Lantern. I think they're similar. I don't know. But yeah, so it reminded me of.
So they are us, basically. At one stage there, when I was a kid, I would have been in my teens maybe, I'd said to them, I think I know what you are. Maybe you're aliens from our past, like maybe you're humans from the past that have left Earth and then returned, or something like that. Yeah. And they said, "Oh, it's not as simple as that. It's more complicated than that." And then at a later stage, they said to me, "We are you. We are your future." So yeah, that's who they are. They're us. That's why they're so interested. As Mac Tonnies had postulated with his cryptoterrestrial hypothesis originally, even though his idea was just sort of like a thought experiment, he didn't necessarily believe these beings existed. He just sort of floated the thesis out there. But he'd said that if they're true extrasolar aliens, they wouldn't really have a genetic interest in us. And so that's why he floated that idea of them being indigenous to the planet in some way. Well, they've spent a long time away, tens of thousands of years on an Earth-like planet orbiting Al-Nalam, or Epsilon Orionis, the middle star in Orion's belt, which is why my book's called Children of Orion, Finding the Cryptoterrestrials. So that sort of looks like a contradiction, where I'm saying Children of Orion and then saying Finding the Cryptoterrestrials, because people who understand Mac Tonnies' thesis would think, hold on a sec, how can they be from Orion and be indigenous to the Earth? But it's because they left Earth and now they've returned,
And so do you think that their technology, the things that they can do as far as walking through walls and levitation and things like that, do you think that that's something that they're doing by spiritual means and spiritual evolution, or do you think that it's strictly technology?
Technology. Yeah. Although, I mean, maybe at extremely advanced levels of technology, these kinds of things bleed together. I'm not quite sure really, but they said to me as well, we are like you, we are as flesh and blood as you. We are physical. We are much more physical than you might think. And I'd said to them, I didn't necessarily think you weren't, but they're tangible. They've advanced technologies, lots of tricks, lots of a large part of the way they get away with being here is constantly mentally manipulating us by exerting influence that they call mesmerization. That's the word in English they've used with me. Where they apologized to me for the mesmerization. And they said, we apologize for the memory alterations. But, you could be going out putting trash out in the bin and having interaction with one, you'd come inside and you wouldn't even remember it, you know, or sometimes they'll have a screen memory or a glamoury. You'll think you were talking to an owl on the fence or something like that. But they're constantly changing the way we're seeing the world. They can implant ideas in our heads that really are intrusive and kind of like false paradigms about why we are where we are, false memories to explain, so that we can explain to ourselves away a situation that we've just been in that would be troubling to us otherwise if we've had an interaction. They're masters of the mind, and that's how they've gotten away with it. They're in our oceans, in our mountains. They can be lethal, although they're sort of complicated. I'm pretty sure that some of the missing 411 cases are attributable to them, especially when it comes to hunters. They're vegans. They don't eat animals. They don't wear animals. This gets a little bit complicated as well, because people think this is contradiction, because they are very prepared to kill animals in self-defense. So they kill a lot of domesticated dogs. They kill they wear these prosthetic claws when they're wearing those dark suits with glowing red eyes, or boa suits, I call them, which has given rise to the Mothman myth. And they can be aggressive to us, and they've killed a lot of us as well, especially if they feel that their children are threatened. Their military is stratified and structured. And a lot of the individuals that are involved with their military aren't that advanced spiritually at all. But they have spiritual classes of people. They have priests and priestesses. And they've talked to me as well about their kind of spirituality, which is like a monist idealism, the idea that all is mind, all is one. We are all one person in one place at one time. This is the kind of thing that their priests and priestesses hold true. But a lot of their numbers aren't overly spiritual people, and they can be violent and ruthless, just like any of us can, really. Some of us can. But so sometimes there's contradictions. People say, hold on a sec, they want to heal the Earth's biosphere, return biodiversity, and they don't eat animals, and they disapprove of animal agriculture, using cattle a lot, mutilating our cattle to expel people from properties that are too close to their underground zones and things like that. They'll kill cattle, which they consider to be almost a mercy killing, because they'll do it in a much more humane way than we would ourselves, but also because they have no respect for those industries. And hunters as well. They've no respect for hunters, especially if it's for pleasure and not for necessity. Not for because you need to feed your family. You've got no other way of doing it. As soon as people are hunting for pleasure, this is a big mark against that individual. If they're sort of coming across you in the forest and you're armed and you have aggressive and malicious intent because you're hunting animals, and they wearing their telepath tech, they can sense all of that off you. If they feel that they're in danger in any way, or you're endangering their children, they just kill you. And that's what they've done to a fair few of people over the years. Or you go to take a shot at something breaking through the trees and don't realize it's one of them or one of their kids. It's to the end of you. So they're complicated in that sense, but they have spiritual theory and advancement and passionate understandings in some way, or some of them do. And then also there's this broad spectrum of, they can also be malicious, aggressive, lethal. And that also depends on what kind of people we are as we're interacting with them, as to how they'll react back. And anyway.
So you said earlier that you think that a lot of what people are experiencing, like whether it's in ufology or UFOs and things like that, you think that a lot of these are the same beings, and there aren't these many different races or factions that are fighting. You think it's mostly the same beings that people are seeing when they see a UFO, unless it's back engineered technology, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, although there were 4 a future lineage human races extant. And now there's only two, I believe. There may be three still here, but definitely two. The tall whites, or the mudgeonah, the ones I'm talking about, or the small dark brown ones. It's kind of look like a grey, but they've got brown skin, black claws, sort of like ridges on their head. They're the beings from the Varginha incident from Brazil in the 90s. Eyes that can take on a red tint in the dark, but in the broad daylight, they've normally got black eyes. They're quite short, about 4 foot tall. The Mudgeonah call them Sabetina, and I think the Sabetina call themselves Sabichi, but I'm not quite sure about that. But the Mudgeonah call the little ones Sabetina, and they call them our little brothers, and they're close allies. And they're two different kinds of future humans from the same period that had left Earth at different times. One residing in Zeta Reticuli and the other in Orion's belt. What we normally think of as greys are an earlier version of the Sabetina from thousands of years before then again, that have more of a grey looking skin. Yeah, there's those two, I'm convinced to answer most of the questions that we have.
Mm-hmm.
There might be other things. There might be true aliens or other kinds of interdimensional beings that sometimes are being seen. Of course, that's a possibility. But I say that most is the Mudgeonah, the tall whites, that can also take on lots of different appearances. They can convince you they look like things that they don't look like. Also, when they're wearing these skin-tight dark suits that have like a circular technology on their chest, goggles, a breathing device with a big long nose that kind of looks like a proboscis monkey's nose, and a helmet, eyes that glow red, and they can cloak, levitate, invulnerability, so they can use a field so that they're bulletproof, intangible, they can walk through walls. They're super soldiers if they're wearing these suits, basically, but a lot of the sounds as well from their language. So that explains a lot of things like Mothman and things. Sometimes Bigfoot as well, if he's described as having glowing red eyes and stuff. But and their language as well. Their Orion language sort of sounds a bit like Japanese, but deeper. But then they also have camouflage languages that are like chirping-based languages, barking and growling languages. And the Sierra sounds are definitely tall whites. They're not Sasquatch. I've heard them making those sounds myself on a number of occasions. Charles Hall talks about tall white language, although what he was hearing was just their camouflage languages. He was thinking it was their real language, but he was talking about, barking and growling, coyote sounds, chirping and whistling, meadowlark sounds higher and lower than human can hear, which is like the Sierra sounds. I had a little bit of a yarn through email with Ron Moorhead that recorded the Sierra sounds, just to see what he thought. And he, which he's said elsewhere as well in interview, when I said to him, hey, these sound like Mudgeonah to me, these sound like tall whites. There's even a guy like Julio Fernandez, a tall white or Nordic experiencer from Spain in 1978, I think it was, gave a wonderful description of the sound of the tall whites that took him on board a craft. Said it sounded like a cross between German for its guttural sounds and Chinese for its monosyllabic nature. And later on, when he was listening to languages samples, he said, maybe it sounds the closest to Korean. And it does sound a lot like that, or Japanese. And the Sierra sounds are sometimes called samurai chatter, because there's a sound that sounds like a deep resonating, like Japanese when it's being spoken in a tough sort of masculine way, like a samurai sort of deep Japanese spoken. But and he also, Julio Fernandez also talked about the barking sounds and whistling and things like that as well. But I said to Ron Moorhead, what do you reckon about that? And he said, well, he doesn't know what was making the sounds. In the end, he doesn't know. And he said that on record as well. I think in Missing 411 The Hunted, he said that, where David Paulides said to him, so you don't really know what was making it? And he goes, no, we couldn't see them. They were making sounds, but we couldn't see them. So that's in keeping as well with the tall whites that can cloak. And he also saw orbs spacecraft heard this humming sound. That's typical of being close to a Mudgeonah habitation. You hear these humming sounds that are sometimes sort of at tree height, but more often sound like they're coming out of the earth. So Ron Moorhead said, yeah, all he knows is whatever was making the sounds had big feet. Mudgeonah have dirty big feet as well. One guy who's about my height, 5'8", a guy who calls himself Joseph, a Mudgeonah, that's visited me a couple of times. He's only 5'8", but his feet are much bigger than ours for a person who's 5'8". They actually have quite large feet even for their height. So once they're getting up to 7, 8, 9, 10 foot tall, they've got dirty big flippers on them. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I'm rambling a bit, dude.
Oh, you're good. Yeah. You're giving the facts, man. I guess my next question would be, you mentioned before we went live that you think that there was musicians and artists and things like that who have probably been contacted by these beings. They might not know it, right? But you said through symbolism and things that they're saying in their music and imagery, in the music videos and things like that, that these people are inspired, that you're saying that you believe that they've been contacted or in touch with these beings in some shape or form because of what the art that's coming out of them as well, right? Who are some of the bands or any of the examples you would say?
Well, I mean, one that might sound very obvious to people when I say it, and they'll go, "Oh, yeah, okay, fair enough." But David Bowie. Okay. I mean, obviously his music and music videos were filled with very obvious space symbolism, ET symbolism, and things like that. But it really does get into details there with Bowie because some of his music videos and his songs are very, very particular references to the paradigm as it stands with the 4 races of beings. Like, for instance, the song, Ashes to Ashes by David Bowie and its original music video. David Bowie is dressed as a tall white clown with a pointed hat, white skin, with a sort of like a circular design on his chest, with what looks like a 7 marked on his head. Now the symbols for the 3 stars in Orion's belt that the Mudgeonah use themselves are, for the first one, for Al-Natak, its symbol is kind of like an Arabic numeral that our 3 sort of looks like a 3. Mm-hmm. For Al-Nalam, the star that they were from, or Epsilon Orionis, the middle one, it looks like a 7. And for Mintaka, it's a line with a couple of marks on it. Now, Antonio Villas-Boas drew what he thought were glyphs over the door of the craft when he was abducted, that has these symbols with 3 points that match up, align perfectly with Orion's belt, with those 3 stars. What's his name? Julio Fernandez, that I mentioned before, from Spain. He asked them where they were from, and they shot into his mind an image of a 3, of what he thought was a 3, and a 7. So they're what they were showing him there is the first 2 stars of Orion's belt to mark. And they, I think Antonio Villas-Boas, when he did the drawing of it wasn't quite a 3. I've taken the liberty of adding a little bit of a mark on it, like to make it more like what I've seen. But it's more like a map, not like a star map. It's more like a flag. It's almost like a flag. The images, if people are interested, they could look up online Antonio Villas-Boas writing or Antonio Villas-Boas hieroglyphs, and you'll see the symbols that I mean. But so with David Bowie has the mark of Al-Nalam, or the tall whites, for their own system, on his forehead, with a star drawn as well, a little silver star offside.
He's got a lot of lyrics about space people and UFOs and space women and things like that too, like in his
Yeah,
lyrics.
he does. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. His stuff is just rife with it, or ripe with it. That particular line, Ashes to Ashes, I recommend people look up Ashes to Ashes, the original, and watch it with the original music video, and you'll see the story of NASA being played out, leaving the Earth, coming across these beings, realizing that they're there with us, constantly reminding us that they're there, and the four actors portray the four races, leaning in, reminding NASA of their existence. Anyway, another band, and so there's lots of David Bowie songs that are really good as well, that are like that. But Smashing Pumpkins is another band. Some of the ones in particular, like Ava Adore, in my opinion, especially taken in context in tandem with the music video, is about the two remaining races, and how they need us to survive. And there's another one. Oh, The Cure. The Cure has Bobby Smith and The Cure. He, more than any of the bands and singers I've looked at, I think he was really haunted by them. They were really having a lot of interaction with that dude, because he reproduces images with beings with red eyes and claws and things like that. He deliberately made himself kind of look like them a bit by painting themselves up and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of his music is referencing back to them and their relationship with us. And
do you?
I'd really love to talk to that dude, because I don't know how conscious he is of this. Because it's
weird, man. Like some people that you think are deep, I don't know how deep they are. They just like channel stuff. They get and I don't know what it is. They're just like they're conduits for the information, but they don't know. You would think that, hey, you know something, and you talk to them and they're like, yeah, they don't know anything. At least they won't tell you. Now there's that too, which could have been something. If you heard in the last the commercial we just played or whatever, where it had Busy Bone from Bone Thugs and Harmony, there's videos of him in drunken, like probably drug induced states, where he's just rambling. He's rambling and he's drunk and his eyes are rolled back and he's looking at he's just out of it. But if you listen to him talk, he's talking about these beings, that how tall they are, and they travel around the planet 7 times in a second. They don't like metal. He's giving you all of this weird esoteric knowledge about these beings. And I seen this interview, which was like backstage at a club. Somebody was filming him talking, so it really wasn't an interview. And but then he says, "Oh, I'm sorry, my bad," and he kind of gains his composure and he quits talking. I'm watching that and I'm doing my research on angels and the occult and all this, and I love his music, and I get the chance to interview him. And that talk has like kind of plagued me, because I'm dissecting it. Like, okay, he said this. I'm Googling these terms and like trying to figure out what the hell he was talking about these beings. Other friends of mine too have messaged me and said, "Hey, have you seen this interview? What do you think he's talking about?" I said, "I don't know, but I'm going to try to get him on my podcast." And he's a pretty big name. And so he's kind of hard to get in touch with some small podcaster at the time. And finally got him on. And I had my notebook. Cool. I had all my notes. I was like, "Hey, so in this interview, you said some things, and you mentioned this and mentioned that." He didn't remember any of it. And he didn't bite on anything that I asked him either. We had like almost a 2-hour talk, and I'm picking his brain. So I'm like, hold on, this was you in the end. You said all of this stuff, and it's like, but then part of me was almost thinking that like people look at him like a crazy person because of those videos and because of other antics and stuff. And I've almost felt like he was trying to clean up his image with me as well on my podcast, and being more of I'm a family man. I don't know. And he didn't really go down that path with me, which really finally got him on here to ask you, because nobody else cares about those questions. I do. I want to hear about it. And he wouldn't talk about it, and he played dumb. He didn't know anything. So what are the possibilities? Like, does he know something that he maybe has took an oath not to talk about and he did on accident? Does he not know and he was just, with these different chemicals and, pharmaceuticals and pharmacy and pharmakia, like spirits kind of speak through you at times? What do you think that somebody like him, obviously we can't say for sure, but what does it sound like to you?
Yeah, I don't know, but maybe, if you're too conscious of it yourself, maybe you'll taint their message with your own interpretations. So if someone like him really is unaware of what he's doing at the time, that he's under the influence of different chemicals and all this kind of stuff, that might be perfect for them, because then they can really present their own message rather than, yes, but who knows? Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of psychics and stuff that I know personally that before they do a reading, they get pretty lathered up, because it lets them bypass and throw off their inhibition so that they can really tap in and step aside even. And so they use alcohol or drugs and things like that, not necessarily in a bad way. I think, there's medicines and things like that exist for us to work with. But, when you're thinking of like the Oracle of Delphi, and they talk about these gases that would come up from the cave, and she would get in, in these trances from the gases. She was getting high and started telling people fortunes and predicting the future and being accurate with stuff, that it wasn't until she was able to bypass that rational mind that says, hey, this is weird. What are you doing? Stop it. You can't make this stuff up. And something that just allows them to get in this stage. And with that being said, many artists, whether they're getting really messed up or they're smoking a lot of weed, a lot of drugs, heroin, whatever, they're getting into a weird state. Other people naturally, through the flow state, they just begin to write. We call it automatic writing. They're just in this state and something's speaking through them. Like, I kind of have those experiences with my music and these lyrics and stuff that come to me, and I don't think I'm that good to write the stuff that comes out of me, and it's like a gift. Like you said, we're giving you a gift or something, and these downloads and stuff, which is very interesting, of channeling and being a mouthpiece for, Daryl Inca. You look at Bashar and those kind of things,
Yeah. I was wondering about what you're talking about right now just a few days ago, in a bit of detail, actually, just sort of thinking about these artists and how much they can claim from it for skill or ability or genius. If their particular skill is being a good conduit, that's a skill in itself. Of sort of losing yourself to it, and that is actually something. That's a phrase. That's a phrase that the Major have used with me. Sometimes when they're communicating with me and I'm sort of trying to interpret what they're saying, they say, relax, don't think in language as well. Like I was saying, they don't want me. Sometimes I'm sort of like trying to think in English or Gaelic. They're like, no. That creates like an echo for them. They don't need me to be doing that. And they say, lose yourself. And then if I'm sort of like not being so self-conscious or self-critical or too metacognitive, like thinking about the process as I'm trying to do it, all of a sudden their equipment is much more effective and the communications are stronger and clearer, But losing yourself for sure.
Well, I'm talking about automatic writing and talking about downloads and information and those kind of things. Like, did you experience any of that while when you're writing your book? Does any of that kind of come, just stuff that, hey, put this in there, hey, don't leave this out, and it's like stuff that you don't really know, but they're like reminding you in a sense? Did you ever get that?
Yeah, I did with a particular example comes to mind where I'd been thinking about the Antonio Villas Boas case from Brazil, and all of a sudden I had this feeling that Antonio Villas Boas had seen Orion's belt. So this was at a stage where, even though I presumed that the beings interacting with Boas had been Orions because of them barking and growling and their fair appearance and all that kind of stuff. Actually connecting them to Orion's belt in a more concrete way, I hadn't been able to. But what happened was I was thinking to myself one day, hold on a sec, I'm fairly sure Villas Boas saw Orion's belt. He saw it, right? So I typed in and Googled like Villas Boas star map, and the Betty and Barney Hill star map stuff kept coming up. That's all I could find where they'd seen star maps on the craft in their case, and I was like, oh no, that's not right. Well, why do I think he's seen it? And then I was looking around, and then I was like, oh, some of the sketches he'd done, there was the symbols of glyphs, and it said Villas Boas writing. And there's the 3 dots, Orion's belt, lining up with Orion's belt with the glyphs over them. I'm like, right. Okay, so this is it. This is Orion's belt. So there's the concrete connection. And then a voice said into my head in that sort of way, said, this is, what did she say again? This is compelling evidence. That's how she phrased it. I was like, this is cool. This is good. And then I was like, I don't know if I want to put it online though. Yeah. Because people will just say it's pareidolia or something. I'm seeing 3 dots because I'm all looking for Orion's belt everywhere. And she said to me, no, talk about it. This is compelling evidence. So then I was like, okay, so you've given me this. Because I was thinking I was just having like a fairly natural, but something that was a bit weird about it though was that I felt like I was going to find it. And they're feeding me stuff. There was an example where I knew something was going to happen. It was similar to this. I was walking around Melbourne, and there was like an old bookstore, and all of a sudden I had a flash in my mind of a copy of The Prince by Machiavelli, Niccolo Machiavelli. And I was like, oh, I think my dad's got a copy of that book, but I don't actually own a copy. I've never read that. And all of a sudden I got a hankering to read the book. And I was like, it's there in that bookshop. And I could see inside the bookshop, even though I've never been there before, and knew exactly where it was. Walked into the bookshop, wandered down, put my hand on the spine of this old book that was missing its cover, and pulled it out. And it was The Prince, Machiavelli, straight to it. So then I read it and familiarized myself with it. And then since then, I've bought other copies of it, Machiavelli's complete works and all this kind of stuff. But I just thought that was me having some kind of weird moment where the matrix is sort of like breaking down, where I've merged with, in some kind of metaphysical kind of way, merged with, in a mystical kind of way, the entire program and gaining access to information. But no, now I think sometimes they were just leading me to things. So I don't know why they would have wanted me to read Machiavelli, but anyway.
When you were speaking about the, the bands and the lyrics and things like that, and people privy to information, and one that really comes to mind for me, a specific song when I had a lot of encounters and experiences, and particularly with Orion as well. And so dude. Yeah, it really means a lot to me. Orion does. But there's a song. Are you familiar with the band 9 Inch Nails?
Yeah.
Trent Reznor. So they got a song called "Came Back Haunted." Are you familiar with that song?
No, not. If I heard it, maybe I'd go, I know that, but not from the title.
You need to check it out. It's one of their newer songs. But I'm gonna read you I'm gonna read you some of these lyrics. The lyrics say, "The throat is deep and the mouth is wide. Saw some things on the other side. Made me promise to never tell, but you know me, I can't help myself. Now I've got something you have to see." And it sounds like you. He says, "Now I've got something you have to see. They put something inside of me. The smile is red and its eyes are black. I don't think I'll be coming back. I don't believe it. I had to see it. I came back haunted." And it goes deeper and deeper, but you're like, the red, and that black eyes and putting something inside of you. And he just goes into more detail, but I remember when I was having my awakening and having these crazy encounters and remembering, like I heard that song and it's like, oh my goodness, it meant so much more, you know. So one of those things, like you said, like again, talking about, you know, they made me promise to never tell, but you know me, I can't help myself. Like it's and I know you know what I'm talking about, and this fact of like, should I tell anybody? Do I should I brag? Do I tell the world their story? Other people are going through this as well, or do I just hold it and keep it to myself? Was I ever supposed to write a book and tell? We rationalize all of this stuff, but you know, with these encounters, you know, which is again, you came back haunted after this experience.
Yeah,
changed,
that's right.
Changed. Something came back with you, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I'm gonna have to listen to the song later on
Yeah,
YouTube.
it's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah, cool, man. But that element as well of being haunted, you know, like I think a lot of people that are having like crypto-terrestrial or extraterrestrial experiences, just think their houses are haunted as well. You know, like they think they're seeing shadow people. They're hearing stuff breaking in their kitchen, or stuff is being moved around. They're hearing disembodied voices, laughter, music, people walking around, experiencing a bit of sleep paralysis here and there. People standing over them in the middle of the night and then they're gone, all this kind of stuff. These are typical crypto-terrestrial profile points. Not that it definitely means that that's what's happening to you, of course, but it's quite likely, you know, like. So sometimes as well, you know, like if you've got like a really real cliche kind of ET UFO interaction where someone says, you know, that a being came out of a craft and talked to me and all this kind of stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that might have happened, you know, fair enough. You know, depending on how they present themselves, I might think, oh, you know, you might be full of it, or you might be delusional, or it might have really happened. But when someone says to me something like, my house is haunted, dude, I'm hearing these noises. I've been hearing growling as well, which is typical of the Majina. People are brushing across me. I'm feeling cold going through me. I go, hold on a sec. That's a real ET experiencer. But it's not normally classified as that kind of thing. You know, there's all of this, like what would you call it? Like fragmentation in the world of paranormal research, so factionalism and any kind of and then people put them in boxes. They go, oh, hold on a sec, you were lying in bed and there was a being with huge eyes and you saw a light outside your window, and they go, that goes in the ET box. And then they'll go, hold on, I heard a woman's voice and she was laughing in the night, and when I went in the next room, there was this levitating, glowing woman passed through the wall. And I go, oh, that's the ghost basket. Blunk. But they're the same basket anyway, or they can be anyway.
I think so too. I mean, that's one of the biggest things that I do with my work is I deal with a lot of religious people and Christians and stuff, and I kind of bridge that gap of like good aliens or good ETs, benevolent beings that come here from Orion, you know, and they're like, nope. Aliens or demons? Oh, wait.
Okay, yeah.
Demons are demons. Aliens are aliens. Right. You know, so they just want to throw everything in one basket or something, or say, okay, I woke up in the middle of the night and I seen this being or whatever. So it was that could have been that could have been your ancestor. Like, why? Just because you were scared, you're gonna label it a demon? So everything goes in the demon basket, and so. Again, with the ETs, they say ETs are fallen angels and they're demons that are flying around in spaceships. Like, no, demons are here sucking off of lower natured people's energy and those kind of things. They're not flying spaceships through time as demons, what you would call from a religious idea. So separating the two and letting people know that there's a lot more going on than what you've been told. You know, and you have to be open to that and ask questions.
Yeah, for sure.
We got a couple questions here for you. You got a little bit more time?
Oh yeah.
Okay, we'll go to a quick break, and we got a couple questions here in the chat. We're gonna do another break, and post your questions here, guys, and I'll ask the guest whatever you want me to ask them. No holds bars. Post them. We'll be back right after this. See you guys in a minute. Wow, so the throne room meditation, man, this was just like a new level for me of creating encounter. Really the process behind it is going in for myself, having an encounter with the Lord, tapping into the Spirit and getting in His presence, and really just petitioning the Father's heart and saying, God, what would you say to them? If I'm bringing these people with me here, if they're doing this guided meditation and we're going through this journey, we're having fun, we're seeing things, we're experiencing new feelings and emotions and sensations, what would you say to them? So it's channeling the Father's heart and relating it back to the people. So man, it's just a beautiful encounter. And I remember when I wrote the first one, I was so excited about it, and it was just God speaking to my heart. I was able to channel the Father's heart. And I would read the script to people because I was just so excited while I was working on it. And every time that I would just read the script, the presence of God would just invade me, and I just burst into tears and I couldn't even read it. I'm just like, let me copy and paste it and send it to you. But every time I listen to it, I'm immediately translated back into the throne room of God, and everything's good there. That's the place where everything is okay, where in the scriptures it says that we are to hide under the shadow of the Almighty. This is the throne room of God. This is the place that we can encounter for ourselves, but this is also a place in which we dwell. So a part of us is always there, and we have access to that. Now there's people who have never encountered this before in their life, and it's a totally new experience for them. And almost every time I get a testimony back from someone, they just say how God wrecked their lives, that they didn't know what they were getting into. The next thing they know, they're in the presence of God, wrapped up in His glory. He's communicating His love to them, and it just totally wrecks their lives. So make sure you check out the throne room guided meditation visualization that I brought to the table.
There are things that go bump in the night. Pull up a chair. Don't be scared, for you have many friends unaware on the TruthSeekah Podcast.
TruthSeekah Podcast!
TruthSeekah.
Self-center. He seems like a nice guy.
You're listening to the TruthSeekah Podcast. Now, back to the show.
This is it. Don't get scared now.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. Questions here. They're coming in. Question from Creator Maker on YouTube wants to know, did they ever talk about a creator? Did they ever talk about God? Did they talk about where they came from as far as origin stories or anything of a higher power or something like that?
I think they believe in a kind of like I was saying before, it's a mystical viewpoint where it's like a divine, the perceiver of the world is in everyone is the same being, the same great being. The universe is like the one great being. At one stage I was, I suppose you could say that's a God with capital G, if that's what you mean by God, but not everyone defines God like that, of course. But at one stage there, I was reading about Kashmir Shaivism, which is a kind of Hinduism, but it's a mystical kind of viewpoint. And there's been forms of Christianity and Judaism and Islam and Buddhism, as well as Hinduism, that have had these similar kinds of views over time, of this idea of like all basically God being the great perceiver, basically the creator of all, and it's an ongoing creation. But when I talked to them about this, and I said, I'm reading this book about Kashmir Shaivism that's similar to what you've been telling me about your own worldview, they said, yes, it's very similar. Now live your life by it. And a creation myth or a creation story of what God has done to engineer the world, or and what came before and what came after and all that kind of stuff. They've never talked to me anything about that. But if your idea of God is the perceiver in everyone, the same eye, the consciousness that manifests and permeates all reality as one divine being, they do have a concept like that.
Have they ever mentioned Jesus Christ per se?
They have mentioned to me before, talking about Jesus Christ, but also talking about Buddha. Not in any detail. No, not just in passing, talking about different kinds of religions and spiritualities. Never dwelling really on any of our major Earth religions or anything like that. Basically, I think they see themselves as being one with the Earth, particularly the whole universe, but particularly the Earth, and that is sacred to them. The Earth is sacred as a mother. So they have a concept of a great mother as well. Yeah.
All right. Another question here is, do they believe in hierarchy, or do they interact with other beings? Have there been any mention of that? I know we're mentioning fairies, we're mentioning ghosts and those things. Like, we clash with them. It changes our life. Is it something that they do that could? I've never asked that question. Never thought about it. Can a ghost see? Can an alien see a ghost? Can a fairy, see an angel? These kind of things.
Yeah, they don't. They've never talked about that. They've never talked about other races other than the small brown ones that they know well. Yeah, no, they don't. Other than the idea that a lot of mythological groups in world mythologies and religious systems and things like that, other than that they sometimes have been based on them, but some understandings, like for instance in the Middle East, the idea of the jinn and things like that is related to these beings as well. And fairies and elves they've been interpreted as being fairies and elves.
Yeah.
Before, especially in the Celtic fairy faith, and that I presume that Natur had Jedanan, the old Irish gods, pre-Christian gods, were probably them as well, that later came to be understood as their elves and sort of rendered diminutive. But yeah, no, they don't really talk about that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I think that the idea that when they're wearing their boa suits, I think sometimes, now I don't know about demons and angels and beings that are actual demons and angels and things like that, but when they're wearing their boa suits, the dark skin, tight suits with long claws and glowing red eyes, and they have a growling and barking language, sometimes when people see them, would call that a demon. But if it's them, likewise, they wear luminous outfits with long white hair and they levitate, and sometimes people, when they've seen them, have said they look like angels. But as for real demons and angels, I don't know anything about that, and they don't talk about that. They've never referenced other races.
What we think they are. All right. We got a bunch of comments coming in really fast, so let's do like a speed round. Let's answer it. Let me ask as many questions and answer them as fast as you can. And I think that's even like intuitive as well, right? Let me see where do these questions start. And guys, go ahead and keep the questions coming if you're putting them out there. I'm gonna read them here. Let me see where they start. Okay, do they think negative thoughts and go?
Yeah, they do. They think they're very much like us, in that they have negative thoughts, positive thoughts. Yeah, pretty much the same as us, but maybe just a little bit more enlightened than most of us, but still a whole gamut of different kinds of personalities.
What are your thoughts on the blue avians?
I don't believe that. I don't.
Good answer. Good answer. There are no wrong answers. Yeah. Okay. Somebody wants to know, See Truth says, how do we make contact constantly? I understand not being attached, but I've only made contact once. Is that something we should try to do, or is it too scary? How do you make contact?
Yeah, well, especially going to an area or a place that is known for being haunted. And even if it's known for being haunted and people think that there's ghosts there or other kinds of entities, there's a good possibility it's them, it's these Orions. And if you send out messages to them that you're there and you're a no threat and you'd like to interact with them and things like that, then sometimes they do respond to that kind of thing. But they try to work out what kind of influence that would have on your life, or whether it's positive or negative, and whether it's worth doing that when they're looking further down to see whether what effect that'll have on you later. It might not be beneficial to you, so they wouldn't do it. Or yeah.
What about Atlantis? And a lot of people are big on that. Any mention of it?
No, none. No, they don't really talk about ancient times that much.
Do you think these entities will show up in the next 2 years?
Sorry?
Do you think these entities will show up in the next 2 years?
I don't know. I think they're planning on slowly manifesting and making themselves more known and having contact with more and more paranormal investigators and things. But I have no idea if it's going to be that short term.
Mm-hmm. What's the reason behind the abduction experience? Is it experimentation abductions?
The main reason behind abduction is to take genetic samples from us. To assist their own genomic structures, because we're more healthy than them in some ways.
Okay, and I guess you kind of answered the next question that came up a little earlier, which was from Flying Penguins, who wanted to know why are they implanting or doing surgery on you. Again, you said it could be to give you something and take something away.
Could be taking.
Right?
Yeah, I'm not really sure as well some of the things that they're doing. But one they said was a transmitter, and then another time they just said, like I said, for language and running. But then again, it's ambiguous. I don't know if that's adding something to me or taking something for their benefit.
All right, let's see here. Any more questions? Cal, what's up, Cal Melkaz? I see you there. Thor, what's up? What are your thoughts on 33 hertz frequency?
I don't know about that. What's that?
Well, let me frequency maybe 432. What about the healing tones?
Reference is.
Healing tones.
Oh, okay. I don't know anything about that. Sorry.
Great.
Good answer.
Good answer.
Completely ignorant about that.
Good answer. Okay. I think that's about it. For all the speed round questions. We got through a whole bunch of them. They all came. Last one here. John Santiago Ross says, have you ever seen them playing within the clouds? I'm assuming during the day, kind of ships, if you will.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I have seen ships during the day. Triangle once, and then a white cigar-shaped thing another time. I had a really weird experience once talking about the cloud, though, where I was reading a book about crop circles, and it's a Lucy Pringle book, an old book from the 90s about crop circles, and they made reference to a giant floating horse, a luminous floating horse that was chasing a police car at one stage, and they freaked out, and it sped off over the fields. Well, that Charles Hall in Millennial Hospitality books talks about how the tall whites float around with their families as two adults with a string of kids, and they can levitate and float around. It kind of looks like a horse. But after I'd had that thought, now that was supposed to be in England, and this the weirdest thing happened to me. it may have been pareidolia, me just seeing stuff in the clouds that I wanted to see, because that's something as well that's easy to do. When I was hanging the laundry out on the line, the cloud that passed my head looked exactly like Britain. It even had like the mountain ranges on Wales and all this kind of stuff. It cruised over the top, just as I'd read from the book about British crop circles, and then had that thought that the tall whites are in Britain. I went out and was hanging washing online. I'm like, whoa. And there were no substances involved. But that's them playing with clouds, maybe, or maybe it was just me seeing things.
Well, I guess one of the last questions or so here we'll go. Cal Melkaz wants to know, says, have you asked him about communications with ETs in the dreams? And I know that's in the synopsis of your book, you talk about that they communicate and even craft our dreams and things like that. There's something that happens when we go to sleep that they approach us.
I think so, yeah. I think they do. That if they want to communicate something that maybe they think we wouldn't be able to cope with in our waking lives, they can, and they want people to, because they're always looking ahead as well, because they have prophetic technologies where they can look at potential realities and see, by doing something now, what effect it will have in 10, 20, 100, 1,000 years. And if they decide that certain individuals should have certain ideas and make the world progress in certain ways, then that's a very sort of clandestine, subtle way of influencing people and giving them ideas by influencing their dreams. I think they do that, yeah. And you might not even know it was them,
Yeah, right. And an inspiration, a life's purpose, a life's past that wasn't something you thought of. It was something that was given to you for a purpose, and to see out like a burning passion to get it out, an idea,
Yeah, I think that does happen through that medium as well.
One last question here. Peter Smart wants to know, are these beings in contact with our governments? And is this slow revealing to us benefit us or them?
Yeah, they are known about by our governments, and the slow revelation, I think, is probably for all of us, for the benefit of, because with a slow drip-fed kind of disclosure, it's not going to. People are slowly getting used to the idea, that they're slowly being able to grapple with, handle the ideas. But if it was all dumped on them in one go, maybe there'd be issues. But all of this as well, slow disclosure, I think, is happening, not just as well with the music industry and what we're talking about, and particular musicians in particular, but also, television and movies. And like, you can't watch a children's television show anymore without there being some premise about parallel realities and diverging timelines and all of this, like all of the superhero shows and the kids' cartoons, kids turn it on, it's like, oh, there's another cartoon that's predicated on the idea of shifting timelines and multiple dimensions and all that kind of stuff. And I think more than any other time in our history, the new generations are becoming fluent in that concept, which is the explanation for the reality of the beings. So that means these new generations, once it's revealed in total to them, they'll be like, oh yeah, we can deal with all that. We already have all these preconceived ideas. We've already been programmed really through television and stuff like that. So it's not as dramatic, so that they can deal with it, Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Ryan, enjoyed this conversation, brother.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, his book is Children of Orion, Finding the Crypto Terrestrials. And it is available on Amazon. Let other people know where to interact with your work. Your book's available there, but your website and your YouTube channel and all those good places where you're active at on social media.
Yeah, well, I'm on Facebook, just under my real name. I'm easy to find there. If people want to send me a DM or friend request me or whatever and have a chat. And also, my YouTube channel, which is my name as well, Ryan Musgrave-Evans. Where I post like vlogs and sometimes post old documentaries and things that are relevant. And other than that, I don't have a presence. online. So they're the two things: Facebook and YouTube, and the books on Amazon. Yeah, in paperback, hardback, ebook, and also there's an audio book in the works. I'm not sure when that will come out, but hopefully in the next few months or something.
Yeah, make it a priority. It's definitely worth it. It's worth the strenuous time of doing, which it's not fun, but once you get done, it's definitely something amazing to have that a lot of people listen to these days. Audiobooks.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But thanks, man. Thanks for having me on, giving me the opportunity.
Bro. Enjoyed it. Cool. Enjoyed picking your brain and asking you these questions and getting to know about your experience. And I think that it helps me get a little bit clearer on my experiences too, especially when, you know, there's those similarities there. You know, we're all trying to make sense of what's going on, and so everybody has a piece of the puzzle, bring it to the table, and, you know, ask questions, and that's how you get the answers. You got to ask a question, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, I've just discovered you by this now as well, so I've subscribed to your channel now. I'm going to check out more of your stuff.
For sure, man.
Check out your music too, man. That sounds cool.
Yes, sir. New album about to drop called White Magic, and it's nice. There's some good stuff in there about all this stuff we're talking about tonight. But appreciate it, brother. We'll connect soon. Thank you so much for coming on. We'll do it again, bro.
Cheers, man. Okay, stay in touch. Thanks. See you guys.
Many blessings. Ryan Musgrave-Evans, ladies and gentlemen. Check him out on YouTube, Facebook, and all those cool places, man. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I sure did. Man, so many different parallels, you know, where people are coming from when it comes to ufology and beings and spirituality and the paranormal, and leave no stone unturned. You forgot to check the one place where you can get some more information. So we you know, you question everything. You gotta, and it's a good thing. You're asking questions. People get offended when you ask questions. Like, why would you? Truth doesn't care if you scrutinize it. Truth doesn't care if you are skeptical, because truth is truth at the end of the day, and so it stands for itself. So, you know, if we're trying to get to the bottom and ask questions, that should be something that is celebrated. And if you're in a community, if you're in a group of people that doesn't celebrate you asking weird questions or off the wall questions, then you probably should get in a new community, a new group of people. But yeah, if you're trying to learn the truth, man, we're truth seekers, right? Seekers. I am truth seeker. We're all seekers. I am you, you are me. And you got to ask questions to get clear on your own story and the story of whatever other people are going through. See Truth here says truth doesn't need to be defended. Nope, doesn't need you to come to the rescue and take up for it. Yep. That's relative though, exactly. There was a couple super chats. Those of you who are hearing the little dingies or whatever, the little noise that was going on while we were talking, those were super chats. Those were little reminders that, hey man, keep up the good work. So thank you, See Truth, for the super chat, my friend. Thank you for that. And then scrolling up, give some other shout outs for the super chats earlier. Lisa Thompson also gave a super chat. Thank you, Lisa. NNDMT gave a super chat as well. Thank y'all for that. Just wanted to make sure, let you know I seen it. I synced it. I really did. Thank y'all for that. Means the world. Yeah, I see you, See Truth. No need to repeat mine. He answered it for sure. Yeah. The interesting thing as well, you know, I was speaking about people saying it's all the same things, man. You know, everything is the same thing. Like, no, that wasn't a demon, bro. It was your ancestor who's mad at you for leaving the whatever you did. I don't know. You know, you see, you have an experience, you have an encounter. People say it's the same thing. Peter Smart says Jesus Christ is the way. That's one of the things too. Like even that, like people have near-death experiences and they see a light. One of my friends, Adam Starseed Bay, he always talks about how everybody just automatically assumes that it was Jesus, even though the being never said that it was Jesus, that they seen during their near-death experience. And so, just lumping everything in as the same thing. I don't think that any of these beings might even have names, right? That they have boxes, or we are the so-and-so from planet, they might not even do any of that stuff. Like a ghost is not going to come and say, yeah, like introduce yourself as a ghost, or demon's not going to tell you I'm a demon. I guess an angel might, though. There's, well, if you make a demon tell you they're a demon, they'll tell you. You got to make them. You take authority over them. Who sent you? C Truth says, yo, Adam Starseed is always in Killer Priest podcast too. Oh yeah. Yep. Man, I love to see you on Killer Priest show or him on yours. Bro, I've been on there twice. And he's been on mine twice, I think. I did 2 shows with the Killer Priest. I need to go back on there to talk about this new album. For sure. Well, Cal Melka says, dude, we got to chat again. Yeah, we do. Need to collab, man, for sure. Saturn 555 says, I'm not Christian, but even Christianity is true and can be powerful only if you fully believe it and know it. Yeah, it works if you work it. The system works if you work it. Christianity is the Christianity that we have today is probably different in everybody else's head of what you think Christianity is or what you think Jesus is. Like anything. I've been big on this lately. Like everybody's narrative, everybody's preconceived notion, you haven't read these couple books I read. And so you don't have some kind of background information, or you haven't had the experiences that I've had with these beings or with these angels or with these types of Christians. And so, you throw any term out there, everybody takes it. It means something different to each person. A lot of people are repulsed when you use the term Christian. A lot of Christians these days, I've been there, they don't even like calling themselves Christians, not because they're ashamed of Jesus or ashamed of the gospel, but they're ashamed of westernized Christianity and how judgmental and how dogmatic and how mean and short-tempered people are. So it's like, no, I don't want to be identified with that. Not the essence of what Christianity really is or what it started out to be, but what it has become. And so beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So you can throw anything out there. And I talk about it all the time. Just go to YouTube and type in why I left Christianity and became a Muslim. I'm sure there's hundreds of, not thousands of those videos out there. Why I left Christianity and became a Muslim. And each one of those videos are going to give you good reason. And then type in why I left Islam and became a Christian. I learned the truth. I was running from Jesus my whole life. Even in Islam, I was running from the religion of my parents and whatever. And you got all these people give you good reason. Which one's right? Their experience is right with them. So to say, maybe it most likely was the branch that you were involved with. It most likely was the person that you were involved with, the people, what kind of teacher you had. All of that comes into play of what kind of experience that you've had with a person. Somebody that a lot of people, we got people in our lives that everybody loves, but things about them that you're like, nah, stay away from that joker, man. Stay away from them. What is it? I ain't gonna tell you. Just, they ain't what they claim to be. Leave it at that. But for somebody else, there's their favorite pastor, their dad. Nah, your dad's a cruel dude. I know things about your dad that He'd be in prison right now if people found out, and that's that person's narrative. That's their story. You don't know it. He's always been dad. He never been the pimp. He never been the drug lord. You don't know him as that. You know him as dad. And you know him as this. You don't know him by these other things. Just like Christianity, Jesus, angels, demons, aliens. Everything's polarizing. Everybody has a different narrative when you mention any of these things. Peter Smart. I don't want to get too deep on this one. I'll tell you, Peter, we did a episode recently on reincarnation, and go back and listen to that one if you haven't yet. But the reincarnation episode, where I just kind of put everything on the line about death and the fear, and we need to pick a narrative. You need to pick something that gets you over your fear of dying. And I open up when I talk about death, because I feel that same way at times, Peter. Peter says, how do we get into heaven guaranteed? I have a fear of death that won't go away. Go back and listen to the reincarnation episode that we just did. It was literally maybe 2 episodes ago, maybe the last episode that's been uploaded. But check that out. And if you don't want to listen to that subject, just go to the end where I talk about death and reincarnation. And you got to find something. Everybody has to find something that brings them peace. And it's a lot of different things out there for you to pick and choose from. Everything's not for everyone. Most things you're like, nah. It's so weird, like with this podcast and picking people's brains and going deeper and deeper into truth and theories and stuff. Like, it makes me more of a skeptic than anything, because I'm learning the mind. I'm learning how people operate. I'm learning traumas. Like, even on this episode tonight, like, I had a good talk with him, but my mind goes to trauma. We don't know. I'm just throwing this stuff out there. Like, you never know. The beings that I say trauma. So one of the theories of alien grays and alien abductions is literally trauma. It's literally birth trauma. When you came out of your mother's womb and there was 4 doctors there with big goggles on and face masks and gloves, and they had these devices that they were pronging you with, and they gave you a shot, and it's like you're being snatched out of your mother's womb, and they're cutting the umbilical cord. I don't know, but I kind of feel like maybe in some places they're supposed to leave that connected for a while. I'm no expert. Don't try this at home, but it's a very traumatic experience, the birth process, versus doing like an in-home birth and having somebody with you and assisting you through that process. It's very loving, and yeah, it's painful, but it's part of it, but more loving and more nurturing, and it's not as scary. And they say it like, that stuff sticks with you, and you have nightmares and trauma and memories that come back to visit you when you're sleeping, and you have a dream that these people are poking you and these lights are in your face and these men are looking at you with big eyes. It's like, hold on, was that aliens or was that the doctors? Again, we're calling different things. You just called the doctor an alien because you remembered it, but you didn't know when you were 3 minutes old that what these guys were. You didn't know. You didn't have, but you have visions of it. And so you go to the movies, or you read a book, or you see something that resembled it, and so therefore you give it a name, and then therefore that plays into your narrative. I will tell you cool things about death, that it's that if you live in the now moment, you'll never die, because there's always the now moment. Whatever's happening, when you do die, what you become, you're still in the now. There is no future. One thing about not fearing death is to be present. It's not to not talk about it or to act like it's not going to happen, because we got those people too. But then you get people like me who think about it all the time because it's my job. and we deal with it all the time. Death is just as much a part of life, and nobody gets out of this alive. And I don't want to end this episode on death and keep talking about it, but we've been dealing with death, and we dealt with it on that episode. So make sure you go back and listen. See Truth says, prayer helps a lot too. Keeping good words in your mouth breeds good thoughts and more good words, all goodness. Yeah, that helps me too. Just to be honest with you, I think my biggest thing is because I am a Christian, but reading the scriptures and reading about how Christ defeated death and how we've been given eternal life or everlasting life, and you will not taste death, and you will be with me forever. And those scriptures really help me to psych myself up and to believe that these scriptures are true, because they are magical, they are alive, and to trust it and believe it by faith, because I've never died before. Right? But that's still a truth seeker in me. It's hard to say that that's a fact when I've never experienced it. I've never died. So it's hard to say things for a fact, but I do believe that God's word is truth. I do believe the Bible to be truth. And so it resonates really deep in my core, and it brings me comfort and brings me peace. And that's what it's supposed to do. The word does not return void. It goes out and it does what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to bring healing. It's supposed to cut you at times. It's supposed to trip you up at times if you're prideful. If you're envious, if you're jealous, if you're doing wickedness on the earth, it does what it's supposed to do. Saturn says, I believe it's all allegorical. Yeah, there's beauty in the allegory. If you can see yourself in it, you got to be able to see yourself in the allegory. That's who it's about. The allegory is not about your uncle. The allegory is about you. Christians get scared at the allegory within the Bible, because it makes them think that it didn't happen, or none of it was literal, those kind of things. And so it's very scary for a lot of people to think that it's allegory. But if you don't understand the allegory, you're never going to understand the meaning of it and the power of it, So you should research it on many levels. And I think that you have to be spiritually awakened to translate it and know what it means spiritually for you, or even on an esoteric level, of relating things back to the mysteries. If you're not trained in the mysteries, if you've never read the Egyptian mysteries and you don't know any of it, you're not going to get the esoteric symbolism, because you don't know it. You have no frame of reference. You're not going to read the Bible like, wow, this is talking about Egyptian sun worship. It's not going to even pass your head. You're going to read the scriptures that says God is the sun. You're going to read the scriptures about praying to the east, and none of that's it's going to read in and play into your narrative, and you're going to keep reading. But for the person who's done studies on early sun cults and early Christian sun cults, and know that Abraham came from a sun cult, and Solomon, was a prince, sun worshiper, and his name literally translates to sun, sun, sun. Like, if you don't know these things, you're just going to keep reading. And it will permeate on another level. Maybe you don't have to get it on an esoteric level. Maybe you don't have to get it on a spiritual ascension level. Maybe you don't have to get it on a CE5 alien contact level. But whatever, that's the beautiful thing about the book, because it's alive. It'll meet you where you are. And it'll do all those things for you. It's like you're reading that book, but you're looking into a mirror as you read it, because it knows the deepest and darkest secrets of your hearts and your dreams and your visions and the things you've given up on. And every time you've given up on yourself, like, all of that stuff comes up if you let it. So it's good to read it on all of those levels. And I believe that there was major 4 ways, I believe it was, that the Jewish mystics believed when they read the scriptures, which was the literal. They did read it quite literally and told these stories and, claim lineage, and those kind of things. Literal, you had the allegorical, you had the esoteric, and you had the spiritual or metaphysical aspects of it, of what it meant on a spiritual level. And we're all of those things. So, but not everyone is privy to every level. You may be well gifted and well read on one level of esoterics that you miss the simplicity of faith and simple belief and trust and ecstasy in the spirit and love and the beauty of exploring God's love. You miss it because you're too analytical, because you're too esoteric, that you're always seeking and you never get that level. So it is very much good to be well-rounded, and not just be, you only read it like it's literal. You probably start off that way because that's the only way that we know. And it's the Spirit that leads you and teach you and guides you into all truth anyway. So as you get older and as you experience life, that thing begins to change and transform and morph and maybe become more important to you at different times in your life. So, but I'm with you, See Truth. See Truth says, I'm guilty of that for years. I was too attached to the knowledge. I mean, you know, when I say in my music, I'm lost within the mystery, but found within simplicity. Like the mystery of the esoteric, the mystery of magic, the mystery of all of these things. But I'm found within the simplicity of love, the simplicity of grace, of the gospel message that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for the ungodly, and that he took away our shame and our guilt. I'll start preaching. That means a lot. All of that. Every single level. Every single level. I don't think that one is greater than the next, and you need them all, really. But you know, milk is for babies. Babies drink milk, and but then when you start cutting your gums and getting older, you want steak. You want to go to Hebrews 6. I'm leaving the basics again. Hebrews 6 is, let's leave these elementary principles of baptism. The problem is, See Truth and many others and myself, is that you try to go to Hebrews 6 and leave the basics when you still don't understand the basics. So we want to get into like, maybe Jesus understood alchemy and angel magic and sigils. That's why he was able to raise the dead. Maybe, so there's certain sigils that you draw or write on a dead corpse that raises them from the dead. It's believed it. You know, if you've studied that stuff, your brain gets to turning. Like, man, Jesus was trained in a lot of deep esoteric stuff. Him and his family fled to Egypt. And part of the rite of passage for every patriarch of the Bible, they had to go to Egypt to be trained. You had to be trained in the mysteries because the Jewish mystics weren't teaching it anymore. So you had to leave the religion of your fathers and go and learn and be trained and be taught and then come back. And we all have to do that. I left Christianity, you know, as far as the religion. I go to church on Sunday now and worship and get in the spirit and listen to a good sermon, and I can receive it on that level. And I don't have to worry about aliens and, you know, all this kind of stuff. Like, the beauty is that we know everything exists in the midst of whatever you're going through. And I love knowing the Lord on all those levels and knowing the spirit world on those levels. It makes everything I do more I don't know if it's calculated or more I don't know. It's just, you know, there's ripples in the spirit world. You know, there's many different revelations and facets behind everything that you do. You do not throw a rock into the river without those ripple effects going out and someone on the other side of the bank feel it a little bit. The butterfly effect, even in worship, or even in listening to a sermon, or having demons casted out of you just through receiving the word of truth and the word of faith where you used to believe a lie. Listen, like when you know what is taking place, man, everything is magical. And I think that's what it really means to be a mystic, especially a Christian mystic, is you're in this realm of contemplation. You're always in contemplation, and you're always deep. You're always counting the cost. You're always contemplative in your prayer. It is cause and effect. It's like, why would I want to speak that if I know that it's gonna ripple down for generations to come, that we have to give an account for every word that we say? Wouldn't that people get at me, oh, you take yourself too seriously in your music, man. You just need to rap about the street, man. Rap about the struggle, blah, 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 blah. It's like, listen, that's not my life. I don't want to. I'm calculated with my lyrics and what I say. I think about it. A fool lets the first thing that comes to his head pop out of his mouth. Like, you got to be calculated, especially if you know there's weight behind your words. The scripture says that if you repent and utter worthy and not worthless words, if you speak truths, God says from heaven, I'll use you as my mouthpiece on the earth. If you know the weight of your words, and if you don't, you never counted the cost. So yeah, you want to move a little bit slower. Every move is a calculated step. You got to be a little bit more cautious what you entertain and what you do, because everything has a consequence. It says in the book of Psalm, I believe it's David who says, I made a covenant with my eyes that I would not set no evil thing, no wicked thing before my eyes. He knew that even beholding wickedness would taint his spirit. He said, no, I'm not going down there with y'all anymore, man. I used to hang out with y'all, but I know what y'all do. And you don't listen to me. I end up doing what y'all doing. I go hang out trying to raise the frequency, raise the vibration, and I end up doing the same thing. So David said, I made a covenant with my eyes that I will not partake of the evil thing. I will not look upon the evil thing, because they understood that the eyes and the ears were the gateway to the soul. Santiago said something about one of my songs here, but I did write a couple songs, emotional songs. I was going through some stuff, and there was writer's block, and I wrote an emotional EP that is not like me, and I did that. Called Emotions. It's a 5-song EP. I wanted the songs to come out, and they still resonate with me, and I got it out of me, and I guess I released that writer's block. But Santiago was talking about a song. He said, your song Paralyzed came in at a very important time for me, D. That song alone is so powerful, man. I know I didn't want to put it on a single, and I didn't want to cram it on White Magic, because White Magic is something different. It's magical, right? And I know that album's magical too, right? It has its place, but there was a couple that I was going through, and I wrote about some of the stuff that I was dealing with, some of the grief, some of the depression, I wrote about it and made songs, and was like, listen, let's just put it on the EP, and whoever wants to listen to it, you can. And it's out. And White Magic is about to be out too. For those of you who pre-order White Magic, you're about to get it in your email. Like, it's not going to come out till like October the 6th. I set the release date already on iTunes and all that. Spotify, the release date is October the 6th. But if you pre-ordered it, you're going to get an autographed copy, and you're going to get it in your inbox in the morning. You're going to have 13 brand new songs in your inbox. And there's some bangers. There's some good ones. I'm excited. I feel like the world needs it. I feel like the world needs a lamp unto their feet and a light unto their path. They need it right now. They need it. So I'm excited to release this project and create as many videos and promo stuff that I can. And so much so that, listen, I spent a lot of money on the album cover of just like getting a cover. That's not it. I just didn't feel it. I didn't feel it. And so now I just released the new cover today, and I felt it. I seen it in my vision. I didn't create it. I created another thing that I thought would speak of it. But this new one I did, I think it captures the essence of it to be an image for the whole album. Honestly, the previous cover I had, of those of you have seen it, I've still incorporated it. It's on the CD and it's on the back, but my hand was the album cover. And so I didn't feel like it fit the essence of the whole CD, the whole album, but it definitely fit for a couple songs. I'll say that. So, and some more of the esoteric, some more Blavatsky stuff, some of the deeper stuff, shamanistic stuff, which all of it's White Magic. But I felt like it fit those songs, but not the entire album, because there's some magical, there's some astral travel, there's DMT songs, there's worship songs. Like, it needed to be something a little bit less theosophical, I'll say. And released the new album cover is out. So I just put it on Facebook, like Instagram, like 3 hours ago. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out, or just go to TruthSeekah.com and get your pre-order. And those will be shipped out pretty soon too. I'm going to place the order probably tomorrow as well to get the physical copies in. I'll sign them, get the stickers, and ship those out to you as well. That's what it is. Staying busy, man. Thank you guys for hanging out. C Truth says many anointed in this chat. Yeah. Kenneth Jones says, in the beginning was the word. We have the ability to speak, which makes us co-creators in this world. Yeah, you are made in the image and likeness of a creator God. And we create and we destroy just like him. We are creators. We have imaginations, we have thoughts. And then you get to choose whether you want to carry those thoughts and ideas out, or if you want to make excuses. You have dreams and visions about a life, about an earth that is more beautiful, that is more abundant. But yeah, you maybe even see, there's like maybe a taunt or a vision of yourself that's in better health. A vision of yourself that you see in your dreams with your eyes closed, or maybe it used to exist at one point, but you put on some weight. You got lazy. And you want to get it because it exists. You can see it. So it exists. It's on a timeline. It's in your head. It's a vision without action is merely a dream. So once you have that vision, it is up to you and not up to anyone else to bring that vision into fulfillment and to birth it. And there's things that you got to do. And it's easier to make excuses and let things stay the way that they are. But if you want something better, you got to go get it. I can't do the work for you. I'd love to, but I'm too busy doing my own. I can help you. We can talk. I can be friends. I got programs. I got courses. I got music. All of that is to inspire you and help you and to teach you. But you got to do it for you, because you're worth it. You deserve it. I was thinking earlier of a quote. Almost posted it on Facebook. I said, nah, y'all ain't going to get it. I'm going to keep it to myself. But I'll share it on my podcast because y'all will get it. There's too many muggles on Facebook. They just be reading, what the hell is he talking about? But what came to me, a download, an inspiration, learn the laws of the universe. Learn universal law, the rules and regulations of the game you're playing. I had a buddy of mine, good friend of mine, he came out and shot basketball with us a couple weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago. He came on the court and he was playing with some ballers, some hoopers for real. And he went out there not knowing what he was doing. We told him who was on his team. He still didn't know who was on his team. He didn't really know how to shoot or dribble. And he was out there with the ballers. You're playing a game. And there's some ballers out there. Don't be a hater. Why are they balling like that? Why they got money and they won't let me have any? Stop making excuses. Learn how to play the game. You can watch YouTube videos on how to play the game. The game of life and the game of basketball too. You want to go play basketball, you can learn. And you can practice. You can learn, you can practice. You can watch and one tutorials. Pow, pow. Kill a crossover that makes people fall down. If I do this one move, they're going to fall every time. If I run as fast as I can, then I stop on a dime and turn, boom, they're going to fall. There's things that you learn in how to play the game. And you practice and you get better and you apply it and you continue doing what works. So maybe you'll end up having 4 crossovers that you can go to whenever with basketball. If there's a defender's playing really good defense, you hit them with a crossover, nothing happens. Dang, they didn't even bite. They didn't fall. Then you got another move. Boom, they didn't fall. Third move. Bah, I got around him. Ooh, wow, he's slow on that side. His left side, his ankle hurts. He got a bad left ankle. So if I hesitate to the right and run to the left, I'm going to beat him every time. You find out how to play the game and the tools in your arsenal. That's basketball, and that's life. Keep showing up on the court and not knowing what you're doing, and you're going to keep getting the same results. That's in business. That's in spirituality. That's in religion. That's in relationship. That's in everything. Again, learn the universal laws. Learn the universal laws, the rules of the game, and then make your own. Then make your own. Learn how things work. And if you want to learn universal law, learn the 7 Hermetic principles. Listen, it is in the Bible. They're all through the Bible, but they're not listed like those are. But they all echo each other. So you'll learn them. You'll get them in you. But it's universal. To me, the Bible is universal law. It's this. It's the same thing. You just got to know what you're looking for. Know what you're reading. Learn universal law. And then learn the rules and then make your own. Make your own. You name the game. We're in a place where a lot of things are happening and existing with the internet that's never happened before. And you're waiting for permission. But they don't have your vision. There's not a soul on the earth that you can speak your vision to and they would understand it because it's your vision. And you're looking for people to come on board with you with your vision. They're not going to do it. They got their own vision. Hire somebody. Get somebody else in your circle who is good at what you suck at. Build a team. On basketball, we know, again, the same analogy. If you got one good player, listen, when there's 5 seconds left on the clock, they're definitely giving it to that guy. Let's throw all the defenders over there because nobody can shoot a 3 but him. He's a 3-point shooter. Guard him at the 3-point line. Okay, well, you need a team. I can dish it over here. I'm a fake like I'm a shoot, but I'm going to dish it to somebody who can dunk. Boom, we won. We win. Get you a team, man. Find you people in your life, and there's many different people that you have. Jesus had 12 disciples. Man, he had tax collectors with him, man. He had people that was good at things. He had a treasurer with him, man. He had somebody looking after the money. Like, obviously the dude came back to try to get him in the end, but when it was dealing with that money, you want somebody who can count. You want somebody who can flip it. You want somebody who can invest. So with that being said, learn universal law, learn the rules, and then make your own. Because we're in a place where we get to make it up as we go. There's a lot of interviews I do with people. I feel like they make it up as they go. They understand they're in a realm where people like that. I don't know that this guy today wasn't doing that, but I talk to a lot of people and my spidey sense kicks in. Hold on. You're making this up as you go. A lot of Christians, a lot of pastors, a lot of New Agers, a lot of ET contactees, making it up as they go. No, I was channeling. I channeled it. I channeled it from a being, an Octurian. You're making it up as you go, buddy. It's okay. We're in a realm where you can do that. Now, you could do that and make up some weird stories. I got friends who make up excuses as they go. They make up excuses as they go. Like people make up stories. Well, there was an Octurian who came to me in 3 a.m. and he stuck his finger in my neck and opened up a portal and pulled me out my body. What? He did? I got friends who make up excuses as they go. Hey, man, what's up? They're going to come up with a new excuse every time. Damn, I thought you wanted help. Yeah, well, I did, but so-and-so. I didn't have what you had. I didn't have what they had. I believe in you, man. You can do it. Well, I need 3 more people to believe in me. What? You just don't believe in yourself. Let's be honest. Because we make the rules up as we go. When you're dealing with something that uncharted territory, you make the rules up as they go. Because nobody's been there before, so they can't tell you how to do it. Why aren't you asking somebody who doesn't have that vision on how to execute it? They ain't never executed a vision in their life, but you're asking them how to execute yours. That's the definition of insanity. To keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. You are insane. You got to do something different. You got to get out your comfort zone. You got to try something different, because what you've been doing, it ain't working. I'm talking spirituality. I'm talking financially. I'm talking podcast. I'm talking writing your book. I'm talking going live on YouTube and making up stories about channeling entities. Or really channeling entities. I don't know. It's all the same to me at this point. But you guys know. You guys know. I don't. I don't. But I do know you can make rules. I do know once you understand the way the matrix works and the way that this thing operates, that there's hacking codes, that there's experimentation. And don't look for somebody else to give you permission. Do it yourself. Everywhere you go, there are going to be people that want to put you down and put you in a box or tell you you can't. But you have to show them better than you can tell them. And you can do that. Nobody can be you but you. Nobody can be you and do you quite like you. Make it up as you go. I got people trying to tell me how to do something they ain't never did. And it don't work. It works for them because they're trying to keep you in a lull. They're trying to keep you in your box because it's serving them. They've got their foot up on your box. Like they're using it as a footstool. As long as they keep you in that box, you're all right. But if you get out of it, or if you move it, or if you destroy it, then it doesn't serve them anymore. So Thor says, "What, Derek? Something got bit by something and opened up a portal to another realm. I choked here in my drink." Hear you say that. Yeah, listen, life is magical. Can't nobody tell you how to do it. Can't nobody be you but you. Ain't nobody is going to do it but you. So stop making excuses and make it happen. The vision that you want to see, the vision that you see, do it. Because you might be the only one with that vision. But eventually people will come with a similar vision and they'll join on board with you and they'll help you and they'll walk beside you. And you walk beside them hand in hand as friends do. And then we'll begin to change things. People that tell you something is supposed to be one way because it's their narrative. And you say, no, I'm going to try it this way. And then you start seeing results on something they say that is not possible. Learn the rules, universal laws, learn them, and then make your own rules in that. Okay, so if I do this, this happens. All right, got it. I'm going to make up a new crossover. You got to make it up. You learn the rules of basketball. Learn the physics of basketball. I mean, you got to know how much air is in the ball to know certain moves that work. Go watch The Professor. He goes to courts and plays people that are so-called good at basketball. And this guy is he's throwing the ball as hard as he can off the backboard and it's coming right back to him in his other hand. He's passing it to himself off the backboard. He's bouncing it off their heads. He's throwing it through their leg. He's practicing night and day. He's doing stuff you never thought was possible with the basketball in game with people. So because he learned the rules and he built on top of it by making his own rules. And now they can't touch him. Somebody said the Bible is analogy. I'm using analogies. We speak, Jesus spoke with analogy, parables. We have to. Angels speak with analogy. God speaks with analogy, allegory, signs and symbols. You can't handle the truth. None of us could. We knew exactly what was going on. It would blow our heads off. None of us could handle the truth. These documentaries you're watching, I think that you're seeing, I mean, you're getting little pieces of stuff and you feel woke. Nobody can handle it. None of us could. David Icke couldn't handle it. You seen what happened when he thought he could handle it? He was on TV talking about he was Jesus. David Icke. Alex Jones. On Y2K, the year 2000, he's on the radio trying to incite riots. Trying to cause chaos and confusion. These people can't handle the truth, man. Learn the rules and then make your own. You got to do it. Stop looking to David Icke. Stop looking to me. Stop looking to whoever you're looking to that ain't trying to help you. And find somebody that believes in you. Even if that person is you. Because if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't see that, if you don't see the abilities and the gifts and the talents and potentials in yourself, you know, you're never going to get anywhere. You do that one thing at a time. You build your faith one thing at a time. You got to step out. You got to step up to the plate and try stuff. We're figuring it out as we go. I don't like making it up as we go, because when we hear making it up as we go, it feels like a lie. Hey, that guy just lied to me. I was believing him too. He just made it up, dude. That's what he does. He just talk for hours, man. He just make stuff up. He's good at it. He's a great storyteller, man. It just still feels disingenuous that he made that up, and I believed him. I feel like I'm gullible because I believed him. Yeah, he admitted that he was lying. He came out and said all that was a lie. Damn, I thought it was legit. Misha and the Wolves is the documentary on Netflix you should watch. And you'll find out there's a lot of Mishas and a lot of wolves out there. Love you guys. Peace, peace, peace. Talk with you on the next one. Going live tomorrow. Who are we talking to tomorrow? Let me see. Let me see who it is. I'll let you know just so you can do your Leonard Palometer. Let me Google his name because I don't even know what we're talking about. It's a weird last name though. I will say that. Palometer? I don't even know, y'all. I will know tomorrow when we do the podcast. That's funny. Corey says, I just realized you're a truth seeker. You're the truth seeker. I just realized that you're the truth seeker of the TruthSeekah Podcast. Yep. That's me. Take care. Derek, do you know what we anonymous do? Anonymous. Oh, sorry. Yep. I don't know. I'll be live tomorrow. I didn't set this show up in advance, but we'll do it in the morning. China says, what time so I can have it ready as a reminder? 10 a.m. Central every Tuesday and Thursday, and usually Wednesdays at 7. That's a new thing that we just started adding. We just started adding Wednesdays and trying to do some more paranormal and supernatural and UFO stuff on Wednesday nights. There's a different crew in here. There's different people who are able to tap in. So again, I'll be live tomorrow. We'll be doing it. Got a bunch more stuff coming up. I'm booked up for like a good month and a half with guests and a lot of stuff. But those of you who are wanting to get the new album, pre-order it tonight. It's $20, $19, and you'll get it in the morning, like way before other people. So if you like that kind of thing, check it out. With that, I'm gonna say peace. We'll do it again. Bless y'all.
Your way so much higher than mine, so much higher than mine. You're so much deeper than mine, so much deeper than mine.
Well, that does it for this episode, folks. To hear more episodes of the TruthSeekah Podcast, head over to TruthSeekah.com. And if you're wanting to support the show and get rewards, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/TruthSeekah.